celebrities, things like that, and just that God is setting things in order, setting the order of how He wants it. In last year, I remember, when my struggles began to abound, and when I began to go through them, I was like, God, I know there has to be a reason for it. And I just want to know, because God has a purpose for anything that happens in our life. And in that, anything we go to, we should ask God, what's the purpose behind it? Because there's something that God is trying to show you in what you're going to. And I begin to ask God that. So I remember at the beginning of last year, Pastor Johnson came to me about being, actually it was actually the year before that, about being a deacon. And that was in November, actually. You know what that. And, being a deacon is actually really deacon, from what my studies is a servant.
Praise
about servanthood.
Amen.
And Pastor came to that, of course, I prayed and I accepted it. But then later, the 2011 comes around, I begin to go through my trials and everything. And I begin to ask God, what was, the purpose He wanted me to, get out of it. And one of the things He dealt with me was that to be a servant, to be a true servant has to be humble. He can't have his own mind. He can't have his own ways, his own thoughts. A servant is just to simply do the will of his master.
Praise Him.
And to be a true servant, you cannot have pride. Now, again, you could be proud in your accomplishments. That's not saying that you just, you accomplish something you say, but being proudful, that type of pride is I'm better than you. I know more than you. That type of pride. And I remember our friend, and guess what God showed me was that to be a true servant, that you have to get pride out of the way. Basically, you have to get Johnny Garrett out of the way. You can't be a true servant doing it Johnny Garrett's way, because Johnny Garrett's way doesn't work and has not proven to work on many instances. So in last year, there was one thing God began to show me, and I was talking to one of my friends on Friday, and she was like, "Well, guess I have to prepare for my new purpose in 2012." I'm like, "Well, in reality, I was like, it's not that your purpose is new, because it's not new to God. God has a purpose for all of us, and He's already predestined all of our lives. So anytime God shows you your purpose, it's not new. It's just that He's showing you your purpose and giving you direction in it. Many of us have gifts and talents that we do. Some of us are good writers. Some of us are good talkers. Some of us are gifted in music, for example. And all of these gifts are supposed to be used to God's purpose. Having said that, a lot of the times we use those talents and gifts for our own selfish motives, our own self-fulfillment. And with your golden your talent, God is giving you that to fulfill the purpose He has for you. God, both of my cars went away, and now I'm catching the bus to work every day. And I remember I was telling my mom that one of the things that I actually enjoy riding the bus is that I get to meet and interact with many different people. Well, when I was in my car, I was to myself. I drove my car to work. On my lunch break, I went in my car. On my lunch break, found my Bible. I went back into work, got back on the phone, left work, went back in my car, went to my house. Wasn't many people I was talking to. One witnessing to, and one of the jobs that Jesus left for us was to preach and present the gospel amongst other people. It is our job as saints to reach other Christians, to bring them to Christ. We shouldn't want to go to heaven by ourselves. Yes, you want to. Yes, this is this is a self thing. You can only, you have to do all you can to make sure that you're doing right by God, so that way when your number's called, you'll be ready. But at the same time, I want to be in heaven with other people. I want to be able to fellowship with other people. That's our job, our motive. And in my car, I couldn't do it to a greater extent. And being on the bus, I've been able to meet so many people, be able to witness to them. I think I've handed out more church cards and talked about the church more just in these last couple of months I've been on the bus, and I did the whole time when I had the car, even at the beginning of the church. And just many people, handing out tracts, the tracts that Pastor Johnson gave me, telling people, to go on the church's website, telling people about our vision, what the church is about. Things of that nature, just sharing, experiences that God has done for me. Because God, when He takes you through things, He's taking you through so that way you can have a testimony to share with someone else. I'll tell a story about how on the bus I met a young lady and her fiance, and they were going through some of the same things that me and my wife was going through with losing car, having to sell everything in your house. Just to have some meat to go on your bread so that way you can you can make a sandwich. Things like that. And God takes you things so that way you have a testimony to relate to other people. And so I just want to thank God for that. And just going forward in this new year, I just want to just continue for God to help me walk in that purpose and live up to it, so that way at the end of 2012, I will have fulfilled everything that God has set for me to do in this year.
Amen.
And that, if I was going to encourage everyone that to do the same thing, to come up to, if you're not, come up to the standard and the purpose that God has for you. And if you don't know your purpose, if you don't know what God has you to do, if you pray and you ask God, He will show you.
Amen. And
once He shows you, it is just for you to follow His direction. He gives you a blueprint and a plan at the beginning.
Amen.
Granted, He's not going to tell you, that when you insert the bolt there, that, the gear may not turn as smoothly if you wanted to, and things like that. But nevertheless, though, if you remember that He said that He'll never leave you, He'll never forsake you, and He's always with you, that He will guide you to your purpose. So I just want to thank the pastor and the church for this time. I'm going to give you back into the hands of our First Lady, and we continue our praise and worship.